What's up, folks? I guess I'm live and in full effect. Okay, so I'm just gonna cut right to it. I have to make sure I remember to look up there. That's the camera. Still takes some getting used to. Yeah, the title of this YouTube, and it's been a minute since I've done a YouTube, is controversy. Um, what the state of the world and everything that's going on right now, you have so many people that are easily triggered and maybe not so easily triggered by the different things that they see on social media, where a lot of times you're only getting a snippet of the actual full conversation that a person is having about a particular subject or topic. And that's one of the pros and cons of social media. Typically, it's like if I post a quote, and let's say it's a quote from Bruce Lee, or I say, how did he say it? If you pour water in a cup, it becomes the cup. If you pour water in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Free your mind, become like water. And I'm paraphrasing, but the point is, there's more to that quote than what I shared. And a lot of times with social media, it's like watching the TV news. You're getting a worldview in 21 minutes. That's impossible. So it's only natural, if you think about it, that you're only going to get one side of the story or partially another portion of the story. And I worked in TV news for a while. So, controversy, right? So, when I think about this topic, it takes me back to a video I just watched from the entrepreneur that I follow, his channel, Patrick Bet David. If you get a chance, check him out. And I think the video I was just watching was about content creation. And because, I have a lot to say. I've read a lot and studied a lot over the years, whether it's men and women in relationships or finances or health and wellness, as I like to call it, that's the Trinity. Those can be trigger points for so many people. Excuse me. You take it, you take a pick, whether it's health and somebody that hasn't worked on their health, and you tell them that fats are bad or fats are good, actually, because your brain is mostly fat. So you need healthy, good fats to keep your brain healthy. If you tell them that, and then all of a sudden it contradicts what they heard on the local news, where they said, what was that story about AMA, American Heart Association, some years ago? They came out discrediting the value and the validity of coconut oil. And I would add the little distinction there, unrefined coconut oil, and that is somehow bad for you. Coconut oil and anything from the coconut is a superfood. So a lot of times you're only getting one side of the story. So there's that part. And to get to what Patrick was saying, what he said was, if you're on social media, and some of the things that I want to talk about from those three things that I just mentioned are all hot button topics. Money? Are you serious? We're in a country where money is God, whether they say it or not. It's God. Anytime you submit to the authority of let's say, a pharmaceutical corporation before you answer to your God, I mean, think about that. That's saying that pharmaceutical is God, not the God you say that you worship and that you serve and that you would give your life for. You know what I'm saying? And even from a different point of view, uh, and this is actually well studied. A lot of people know this, and I don't have anything against witches, but essentially the word pharmacy comes from the word pharmakia. So if you consume pharmaceutical drugs as a Christian that loves the Lord and don't want to have anything to do with anything dark or evil or satanic, you're actually practicing witchcraft when you take pharmaceutical drugs. This is in the Bible. If you look at the etymology of the root and the word and where it comes from, when you're talking about pharmacy, it comes from pharmakia. But you got all of these Christians that say they love the Lord, but they taking pharmaceutical drugs. They got that, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, and what kind of world do we live in where you got to walk on eggshells around your family, or God forbid, the person that you are married to, because you got the shot or they didn't? What is that? I mean, it's bad enough to be in a relationship where you literally feel like you have to walk on eggshells, and then to actually be in a space where you're literally having that as your occurring world. where even the people that you've known and most of your entire life, family and friends, all of a sudden don't want to speak to you because you didn't get the shot, but they did. You are exercising your right to choose and to choose powerfully. This is supposedly a free country, not just freedom of choice and right to bear arms, but freedom of speech, supposedly. So let me complete what I was going to say about Pat. What Patrick David said was, and it just spoke to me directly, because a lot of the things that I share on my podcast, or even some of the things I share on Facebook, I know they're edgy, so to speak. I don't even consider it edgy. I'm a very logical person. And when I look at data, when I look at information, I'm like, well, this logically just makes sense. And if anything else, I'm like, hey, let's have a conversation about it. I'm as I often say, life is just one big classroom and we're here to learn. I'm here to learn just like you guys are. I'm far from being the smartest person in the room. Didn't do well in school, none of that. After I got out of school, though, and I really found things that I was curious about and things that I was fascinated in, I started studying. I started reading. I've had a terrible relationship with money. And one of the things that's been there for me is like understand finance and business, and shout out to my old roommate and friend of mine, Christopher Williams, who was a business dude. And he said, man, everything in life is business. It's all business, all of it. And at the time, I heard him, but I didn't hear him because I wasn't ready for it. My point is, just to, again, get back to finishing my thought about Patrick Bet-David. What he said is that if you post controversial content, or if you post things that are considered to be controversial, and damn near everything could be considered to be controversial in this day and age when the world is upside down. And this is what he said: if it keeps you up at night to where you're not sleeping, and I've had issues sleeping over the course of my life, so another story. You don't need to be posting content if that's the effect that it causes in your life. If you're stressed out about something you posted on Facebook, or something you posted on YouTube, or something that you posted on Anchor or whatever, Instagram, TikTok, stop doing it, because you're not equipped for that kind of conversation. Because on this platform, people are going to challenge you. I remember before I opened up my YouTube channel, it took years for me to finally start a YouTube channel, because over the years, I would look at people's YouTube channels, like Dr. John Bergman and this one pastor that I follow out of New Jersey, Bill Donahue, just some great people that just post thought-provoking content. And it just makes sense. I'm a very logical person. And I'm like, wow. And then I would look at some of the comments, and people would at times just go in on like some of the doctors that I would watch a lot of times, because, they come from the old school, like really truthfully subscribing to the Hippocratic oath, do no harm. And they will post things that, added validity to herbs and, plants and natural ways to heal, and my point is simply this: it took me a while to even start my YouTube channel, because I would see the comments on their videos where people would just go in on them. I mean, what do you call them? Trolls. And they would just talk about them. I'm like, I'm looking at what I just watched and then what they replied to. And I'm like, how did you get that from that? But that's where they were. And those comments and just how negative and vile they were at times, I was like, damn, I know I have a lot to say, but I don't know if I want to deal with that. And that's what Patrick Bet-David was saying. He said, if it keeps you up at night, you don't need to have those kind of conversations on Instagram or social media. And that was profound to hear him say that, because it was like I was recreated, as we say, people that have done work with Landmark Education, and I was like, yo, because that's literally been my experience at times. I have stressed out about a lot of the stuff I've posted on Facebook in particular, because it's more like the politically correct type platform. Twitter, people just seem to just be more at home with just being truthful and just raw. And I like that, because most of my life I was this people pleaser, always trying to make sure everybody else feels good at the expense of my own truth, and that fosters self-hate. when you can't speak your own truth, when you don't feel comfortable saying what you have to say because of how this person might take it or that might take it, that person might take it. Now, we're supposed to be responsible for the things that we say. I'm a firm believer in that. And at the same time, I've been around plenty of people that they just shot from the hip. It was like straight, no chaser. And if you liked it, you liked it. If you didn't, you didn't. They could possibly fuck up your whole world with something that they said to you. But that's just their authentic form of self-expression. I mean, a woman I dated years ago was the same way. She would just say some of the rawest shit ever. And a large part of the problem was I didn't call her out on some of the stuff that was truly foul. She was right on certain things, and some things she was just fucking foul, and I didn't call her out on it. And that was on me because I was afraid to rock the boat. You know, afraid to just blast her if she's blasting me from this space of like negativity and just being a bitch and being, you know, having all this venom in her mouth. I'm like, what did I do to deserve that? You know what I'm saying? So the point is, with these platforms, if you can't be at home with that kind of communication, it's probably not meant for you to have those conversations. And one of the things that's right there for me is I love talking about men and women in relationships and men and women being empowered in their relationships with one another. You know, as the one guy, the late Kevin Samuel said, the image consultant, I was watching one of his interviews and people hate his guts. A lot of black women hate his guts. You got a lot of dudes that don't like him. But one of the things he said was, is that we live in a relationship industrial complex. I had never heard that before. I've heard medical industrial complex, prison industrial complex. What's his name? Dwight Eisenhower, before he was going out of office, his original speech, he said the military congressional industrial complex. You know what I'm saying? So I've heard it from various points of view, the medical industrial complex. And so, if I didn't say that one already, but the point is that when I heard him say that, I was like, wow, you know, why are people struggling so much in their relationships? And it's largely because in America, family is not valued anymore. It hasn't been for a long time. And for the folks that somehow managed to make it work, I'm like, yo, y'all need a tip of the cap. Can I say kudos to you? How did you do it? How do you do it? Because there's so much negativity in the world now, more so than ever. So many things pulling at the family unit, the nuclear family unit, what's left of it. Anytime I see a couple, and I don't entirely believe in monogamy. I actually think polygyny is normal. I think it's normal for a man to have more than one wife. And that's a conversation for, you know, dudes who are very accomplished as warriors, that, you know, that have their financial household in order. It's a different level of conversation, but that's instinctively men at our core. We want to have as many women as we want. If a man's really being honest about it, and I know brothers are like this, well, that's what we'll say. Like, no, I want to have more than one. And it's not to say that a man can't have one woman and be happy with her. He can. And at the same time, you know, just from a lot of the things I've learned from watching this one female psychologist, like a relationship expert, she said women are the ones that check out on monogamy faster than dudes. A woman said this, her research, not mine. You know, saying that women are the ones that cheat faster than the guys in a monogamous relationship. You know, marriage in this country don't mean anything anymore. It's like dating. You can just hop into one, hop out of it, hop into the next one. You don't like that one, hop out of it. There's no, and at the same time, marriage has a sanctity to it. If it's truly spiritual, if it's truly grounded in the principles of, of God, you know, whatever you believe God to be, if you even believe in God, I do. I don't even have it as a belief. It's a knowing. I know God based on a lot of the things that I've been through, and somehow I'm still here. I know God. It ain't a belief. It's a knowing. And that's a different level. I have cultivated my relationship with God. I cultivate my relationship with God daily because that's been the only thing that's kept me alive, you know? And so, you know, again, the title of this is controversy, and it takes me back to a lot of the stuff I will hear the comedian George Carlin say. And if there was anybody that just went in on the game like nobody else, I mean, talk about ether his shit was ether. When you talk about the social engineers, as I call them, and how he even mentioned this in one of his interviews or something like that, about how back in the day, how the record labels would literally steal from the black artists and give it to the white artists. You know, the level of treachery and the things that they would do. And then he talks about it on a bigger level when you're talking about how they don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about you. You know, in other words, they're not in their, you know, little, what do you call them, little cliques or their little fraternities, higher level fraternities, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, this shit ain't like conspiracy theory. This is actually documented. Get the book Secrets of the Federal Reserve. I'm reading that book right now. You want to read something that's eye-opening and shocking in many ways about the banking system and how it was created and it's fraudulent and it's not federal at all? You know, but a lot of people don't want to look at that kind of stuff. I get it. For a long time, I didn't either. But I've always been curious about things. I always like to know certain things. And when certain things pique my interest, I want to dig deeper because I'm like, damn, okay, that's fascinating. I love history. So when I learn about history and when you see the dots start to connect, and a lot of things that led me on the path to kind of researching things on a deeper level beyond just what you might hear on, you know, mainstream media and all that kind of stuff, was when I started getting into health and nutrition. You know, I had cystic acne, you know what I'm saying? I mean, look at my skin. I got scars and shit, you know. At times I still have to make my peace with the fact that I don't look how I used to look in the 8th grade, you know, and then my skin started breaking out in the 9th grade. The point is, that's what led me down the path of just asking questions deeper than what I was being given, because I was taking everything that the dermatologist was giving me and none of that shit was working. I did tetracycline, I did antibiotics, I even did that shit Accutane, which is like the worst shit ever, and they had a major recall on it because it was messing people up. I didn't take it that long, but I did take it. And they never said it was what I was eating. All they said was just keep taking this. And as the late Bob Proctor said, he says dermatology is the best form of medicine to get into because everything they give you never works and they keep telling you come back for more. And that literally was what my experience was. And I'm like fucking in tears one time because I'm having these big ass knots on my face and they were painful and they hurt like shit. And then I would have to go get the injections and then they drain them. And it was embarrassing. I skipped so much school in the 9th grade. It's not even funny. It's no surprise I had to go to summer school. But that's the point. That's what led me down the path of asking questions. I would almost be of the assertion that if my skin didn't break out, I probably wouldn't even be into this conversation of all this kind of stuff that's considered conspiracy or stuff that's rocking the boat potentially. It's like, no, just look at life. You know, if you have eyes to see, on some level, you see stuff around you, you're like, that is fucked up. That doesn't make sense. What the hell's going on over here? And then there's a lot of beauty too. Don't get me wrong. Let me make sure that I'm being perfectly clear. Life is amazing. It's what we make it. Right? We're co-creators. I say that all the time. And it can be a very fine line between love and hate, like with anything in life. And it's just about choosing powerfully, moment by moment by moment, right? And in those moments when my skin was not healthy and things were not working and I'm a hermit and I'm staying in the house, not doing anything while I was in high school and not having fun where everybody else is out having fun, dating, you know, going to basketball games, all that kind of shit. I have none of that as my experience. You know, I'm in the house licking my wounds damn near, which is not good either. That's pretty lame too. It's like, fuck it. You got plenty of people who had skin conditions worse than I had that were still out and about having fun, living life and saying, fuck the world. I don't care if people look or laugh or talk about me. Big deal. You know, I've had to grow into that, you know, but the point is those unanswered questions from the dermatologist, them saying it's not what you're eating, is what led me down the path to saying, no, it's got to be something more here. I truly believe that God has given us everything, and I'm not religious, you know what I'm saying, but I do believe in something greater than myself. And I was always of the mindset, like, there's got to be an answer to what I'm dealing with. And they weren't giving me that answer. All they were just saying is like what Bob Proctor mentioned, take this and come back for more. And so when I started researching about how, when the blood is acidic and the body is overly toxic or you're constipated, the skin is the largest organ on the body. And if you're constipated, the reason largely why you're having issues with either, pimples or cystic acne, again, really big, painful bumps, is because you're like seriously constipated. You possibly even have irritable bowel syndrome, which I was diagnosed with, a while back. And that shit isn't fun at all. But the point is, it started to answer some questions. And then when you start following the money, it's really that simple. It's like something is really wrong here. And it's all a for-profit game at the expense of families, at the expense of communities, at the expense of children. It's all a for-profit system. And don't get me wrong, let me say this. I'm a capitalist. I believe in free market capitalism, and that's distinct from freaking crony capitalism, which is what most of us have as capitalism. And that's like the unbalanced shade tree version of it that's so commonly practiced in Washington and, with these corporations and their lobbyists and all that kind of stuff. That's the crony capitalism that's, basically run America into the ground. Capitalism at its finest is me being able to go out and earn a buck and do for self and be self-reliant, self-sufficient, independent, be able to pay my own bills, not have to rely upon the government for anything. I don't need their food stamps or anything. And that's no knock against people who've, been on food stamps. I was on them at different times, right? I needed them, right? And so, but that's the whole point. At one time, you were on food stamps as a bridge to get you to the next place in life where things would be better. It wasn't to be like a life sentence, so to speak, where you're on food stamps your entire freaking life. That's just crazy. And you got generations that are having that experience now. That's all they know is the government taking care of them. And so, a large part of what led me down this path is dealing with my own issues with health and realizing that the dermatologist was not giving me the answers that I was looking for. And then I did find out that it was what I was eating. It's the thoughts that we think, it's the words that we speak, and it's what we put in our body, And if we're putting toxic foods in our body, if we're putting GMOs in our body, if we're eating foods that are improperly combined, it's going to have a damaging effect. And so a lot of people can get away with it because you never see it in their skin. They're just constipated or whatever, but they never have major skin issues. And the main thing again is that's what led me down the path to just watching documentaries on the food system, whether it was Food Inc., whether it was Forks Over Knives, whether it was the documentary Thrive, What on Earth Will It Take? I mean, take your pick. All of those were the documentaries that led me to being where I am today, to where I started learning about the money system and the Federal Reserve Bank. Again, follow the money. All the stuff that George Carlin talked about, where he was just raw, calling them out and saying they're full of it. You're not in their club. With those relationships. I'm wondering why in the greatest nation in the world do we have a divorce rate that's at 50%, possibly even greater now, considering how jacked up things have been in the last few years and some of the stories that you hear. So truthfully, I don't know if I'll stay on social media that much longer, rather, because one of the podcasts I watched yesterday, the guy broke it down brilliantly. He said they gave people the okie doke back in the day when, the World Wide Web was coming out. They're like, yeah, give us permission to have access to all your data and you can be on our platform for free. So that was like the little shade tree tactic that they pulled on people. And so now they got all your data. And then if they want to pull a plug, they can pull it like that. Because essentially in this day and time, social media and the different platforms are God. Really, they can. Well, how does the saying go? He who holds the gold makes the rule. So the people that own YouTube, which are the people that own Google, they can shut you down like that because it's their platform. So it's like, if anything, if you're a content creator, and especially in this day and time when they can quickly label some stuff controversial or hate speech or whatever, hell, I mean, it could even happen for something that I've shared here in this video, and I don't think I said anything hateful at all. I was just speaking about my experience of life and some of the things I've learned over the years. That's all I talk about. Life and how it occurs to me. It may not be something that you resonate with. You may not dig it. You may not relate to it at all. Okay, don't subscribe. Find another channel that you do vibe with, that you do resonate with. But my whole point is, when people are in pain, when people are hurting, and people are in pain, you got people that their relationships are a fucking mess, and there's children involved, and they're in pain, and they don't know what to do or where to turn to. Those are the kinds of people that I'm just like, what happened? People's stories, their life stories are fascinating to me. So I'm just like, yo, how did you get to be who you are today, whether you're a success or a so-called failure? How did you come to be this person? What led you up to this point? If more of us took on being curiously engaged in other human beings, looking them in the eye, really listening to what they're saying, not just the words that are coming out of their mouth, but what may be behind the words that they're speaking. Because sometimes there's some words and there's a communication behind the actual words that are coming out of their mouth. And if you have that high level of listening, you can hear that. And when they know that you hear them, they're like, whoa, this person heard me, unlike anybody else in my entire life. And you will never be forgotten in that person's eyes, because most of the people, a lot of people in the world don't have the experience of being heard. Where I'm from, in the inner city in Detroit, and that goes for many inner cities around the country, most of us have the experience as Black men and Black women of not being heard, being marginalized, overlooked, made wrong for fucking everything that we do, damn near. And then it's like, well, where do I belong? And then it takes a while for us to find our place, if we ever do. And the system is a joke. I mean, I met this guy that was a superintendent of the Milwaukee County school system when I used to work at this health food store back in Atlanta. And he said, Dean, I still got the piece of paper in my file cabinet. He said, if you are not reading at a certain level, about a fourth grade, they have a prison cell waiting for you because they know that you're coming. It's a damn algorithm to it, So it's like, if you're not equipping your children with what they need to be productive citizens, because you and the person you had the child with are so at war with each other, I'm like, there's something wrong with that. And there's a lot of that going around. So whenever I see couples that are in love and they still hold hands and they've been together for 20, 30 years, I'm like, what's your secret? How did you do it? How do you do it? Because I know it's not necessarily easy. And those are the kinds of stories that I'm like, wow, I'm fascinated by. I want to know more, because I'm like, okay, what works? At the heart of everything that I share on these platforms, whether it's Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, whatever, I ain't out to piss nobody off. I don't really care about anything other than seeing people thrive. I'm just looking for, okay, what can we put in that's missing that allows for people to have more workability in their life, in their intimate sexual relationships, with their finances, with their health. Why are so many people in pain? Why are so many people struggling? I know, because I've been one of those people. I'm still processing through my own shit. We all do. As long as we're living, we're processing through something. So that was kind of what I wanted to share. And I'll probably be posting a little bit more on here. Like I said, I'm debating whether or not to keep doing it or not. Because one of the things the guy said on the podcast that I listened to yesterday that was so on point, shout out to the brother 19 Keys and Red Pill. And I had a chance to meet the brother Red Pill years ago at this lecture with Dr. Delbert Blair back in Atlanta. But one of the things they shared was, when you are on their platforms, YouTube, Facebook, whatever, they control the content. So if they want to, like I was saying earlier, if they want to pull the plug, they can pull the plug on you and your content and it's gone just because of something that they deem to be inappropriate or hate speech. Since when did a free society become so sensitive where you can't speak your truth and be with an opposing viewpoint different than your own? Why is that now damn near blasphemy or almost like evil or something? Well, what happened? And that's one thing I will say, even in all those experiences growing up and just tolerating way more shit than I ever should have from people in terms of letting them say things to me and me not calling them out on it and different things like that. The one thing that I always had a great deal of respect for was the people who had the courage to say what was on their mind, whether I agree with them or not. I respected them. And at the end of the day, respect is what matters. Whether I liked them or not, the fact that they had the guts to say what they needed to say, man or woman, I was like, that's a real human being. They're living their full self-expressed life. I want to be like them. And in a sense, this is a manifestation of that. So all I can say, folks, is finish the thought about 19 Keys and Red Pill. One of the things they said was get your own platform, get your own server. Excuse me. And I know a couple of brothers that like Derek Grace the second that has his own platform now. He has his own I guess that's what I want to say, a platform. And then Dahudi Ma'at at DahudiMa'atRaHerbs.com, they pulled him off of YouTube. And this brother was dropping knowledge about how to just come up in life with your finances, your relationships, your health. I mean, the brother is thorough. And they just pulled the plug on his content. He created his own platform. So I guess that's the major takeaway, or the major thing I would leave with all of you folks, is that get your money. And if you really got a powerful message that you want to share with folks, seriously look at creating your own YouTube for your channel, your website, and the people that follow you, so that you don't have to worry about nobody pulling the plug on your content. Because the reality of it is, again, he who holds the goal makes the rule. And you can't really hate the game. You can't really hate the player. As the saying goes, you hate the game. And the game is, they have run a serious Jedi mind trick on the masses to where we've given up all of our content for free and they got all of it and they can use it however they want to use it. And then we, some of us who have built up great followings, and I'm far from that, obviously, at this point, are making residuals from it. So it's a good way to make passive income. So that can be a good thing. And that's largely why I'm on here, to help promote my book, the book on healthy living, 11 fundamental ways to create a balanced and fulfilling life. Coming to Amazon in the next couple months. So be on the lookout for that. So that's a part of why I got on here was, like Grant Cardone said, when he got laid off, I think he was selling cars. He's like, nobody knew about him. He's like, how am I going to market myself? And then he found out about YouTube. He's like, okay, I'm just going to be on here all the time. Free marketing, and he got all his content out here. Patrick Bet David talked about how he's on YouTube all the time, posting on the same days at the same time for years. And then eventually he got to a certain level of subscribers to where now he's got the huge following that he has. So you gotta put in the work. As the saying goes, the harvest is ripe, but the laborers are few. So wherever you are in this conversation, all the best to you. I'm actually, in light of what I just shared with you guys tonight, I'm left to wonder, do I want to post this on Facebook or not? And I'm going to think about that. I'm going to go back and watch it again, and I'll see if I want to post it. Because, going back to what Patrick Bet David was saying, if it keeps you up at night, you don't need to be posting things that have you so worried to where you can't sleep. And I feel compelled to share about different things that I see in the world because I'm like, it irks me. I'm like, is anybody doing anything? Does anybody care? I'm far from having all the answers. I'm just like, well, can't we have a civilized conversation or debate about it. And I didn't even think I liked debating, but now I'm like, let's debate the issues, not all of the other fluff surface stuff that keeps us off topic. Let's talk about a topic and let's come to some resolute conclusions about how we can take that topic, use it in a way where we can put structures in place to create workability for people and their life, whatever it is, health, finances, relationships. Let's have those kind of conversations. That's all that this whole channel is about. And so even though I have some concern, hell, that's what all this gray hair, what's left of it, that's where all that comes from, is just worry about stuff I really had no business worrying about. I even don't have some concern about, sharing some of my content. And I know people, I got friends of mine that won't touch social media. They don't have a channel on anything. And I totally get it. I had kind of a strange life. And in a way, for me, this is a part of my self-expression. So this is another way I get my message out. And then there may come a time when I have to go away from it completely as well, because everything that's going on in society right now leads me to believe that they're going to just possibly move to where all of this stuff is monitored, Big Brother. And I hate to say it, but where freedom is a distant memory, it seems, because a lot of people just seem to be willingly giving up their freedom so that the government can take care of it. So go figure. So anyway, folks, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. If you like what I have on my YouTube channel, as you currently know it to be, feel free to hit the subscribe button. And if you think you know somebody that might find some value or get some value out of this video, please share it with them. And I greatly appreciate it. Leave a comment below if there's something you feel like you'd like for me to talk about or discuss, or you think I'm full of it or whatever. You know what I'm saying? This is free platform, what's left of it, in terms of the free speech aspect of things. But ultimately, like I said, my conversations are genuinely from the heart, and they're from the space of, how can we move forward? Because I hate to say it, at times, when I listen to a lot of George Carlin's comedy, and then some of the stories I've heard about what goes on in Hollywood and things like that, from friends of mine who actually were about to go to Hollywood. I mean, it's like real fucking stories about the level of weird shit that goes on. And I don't think it's just Hollywood. I think it goes on in politics as well. At times it feels like it is, like a friend of mine said, we live in a simulator, like the Matrix, like it's all controlled. So at times it's like, does any of it even matter? So who knows? It's all an illusion anyway. Like I say to people all the time, don't take any of this shit too seriously. It's a game, have fun with it, live your life, spread love wherever you go, smile, look people in the eye, even if they're wearing a mask and you're not, look them in the eye, acknowledge them, nod, smile. They'll see yours, and then you'll be able to feel theirs through their mask, because it's all energy. It's one of my favorite quotes from Einstein. He says, how did he say it? And I always have to paraphrase it, but he says, everything is energy. He said, that's not philosophy, that's physics. I'm like totally jacking up the quote. But the point he makes is that when you raise your vibration to a certain frequency, you cannot help but get that as your reality. It's that simple. So it's all in what we create. We are co-creators with the Most High. So let us focus our time, effort, and attention on creating more of the life that we want, as opposed to all this other negative stuff. Now I see it, and I do everything I can to avoid focusing on it. And sometimes I'm like, well, maybe we should have a conversation around it. So I'll come on here and share. I don't have a television. I very, very rarely listen to the radio. So the only time I see something that's so-called news is if I go to Yahoo to check my mail, But ultimately, it's like, can't we just have like civilized conversations around this without people looking at each other like they want to kill each other? You know what I mean? It's like, is it that serious? Even within families, and I've experienced it in my own family. People looking at you like, I want to kill this nigga. I mean, like, for real. I'm like, is it that serious? Can't we have a conversation? I got love for my family, even if we don't talk all the time. You know, even if we differ, you could be Christian, I could be Muslim. You still family, you still blood. I'm gonna show you love. Unless you just that sideways towards me, then we don't really have to talk to each other. So anyway, thank you folks. I appreciate you for checking out my content. And like I said, if you like what I shared today, hit the subscribe button, hit a like, give me a like, and share it with somebody that you think might get some value from it. Thank you so much, folks. Peace and love, one love, and know that we can continue to have more love as long as we continue to operate from the heart. Everything else works magically when we work from that heart center. Peace.